anyway, thanks for letting me join you today. Uh, this is an overview of what I do at the ARC Westchester and everyday personal technology. And I'm trying to try and show you how you can get into this. So let's just go, okay, so let's just go to the MacBook. Okay, so this is why I got into this. This is my daughter who right now is 41 years old, and she lives at one of our houses. And back to the Apple days of, you know, the Apple IIc and whatnot, I've been trying to use tech to help Jessie. And we've gotten to a point now, which is absolutely fantastic, absolutely wonderful, that I talk to her most every day via FaceTime. And it's a little frustrating sometimes, but God does it give me sanity to know that she's safe and well. And that the other day, you know, Jessie is 41, but she still likes Curious George. She loves Curious George. So my wife held a book the other day of Curious George stories, and I read it to her, and she enjoyed that a heck of a lot. So, you know, mother is, you know, necessity is the mother of invention. Anyway, so we're trying to, at the ARC Westchester, promote the potential of everyday personal tech. One of my roles is personal technology at the agency, but I'm also involved in advocacy. And I like to call it advocacy because everybody advocates, not just the individuals, but the staff, parents, everybody advocates. And I also do CQL. I manage the CQL process at the agency. I'm a busy guy, hence the lack of hair. Okay, so putting this in context. So, you know, in our field, we've seen so many changes over the last 50 years, absolutely incredible changes. And there's a picture of Willowbrook. And thank God we don't have Willowbrooks anymore. Can you imagine if we had this kind of infection at a Willowbrook and how it would have been a wildfire? So that's a great unexpected benefit of where we are right now. So we've gone from Willowbrook to smaller community settings, smaller group homes, some apartments. You know, we've really changed things in a long, long period of time. We've gone from facility-centered to person and community-based services. And instead of approaching everybody, although CMS still has this unfortunate viewpoint many times of custodial care and health and safety as the primary thing, that's gradually being replaced by a model of potential and lifelong learning. All those are very positive things, but we're also in the circumstance of escalating service costs versus lack of staff and lack of revenue coming from the state. So challenging times. It was challenging times before COVID-19. So technology, personal technology, can be divided basically into three categories. You have the traditional assistive technology, which were things like the Dynavox and wheelchairs and a lot of things that were geared to people with sensory and physical needs. In the last couple of years, we're seeing a huge growth in enabling technology, which are things like Alexa and smart speakers and door alarms, video observation. And then the area that I really try and focus on, because this is such a huge area, no one person can know it all. I'm trying to focus on what are the things that can help people with cognitive needs. What are the things out there for cognitive technology? And it just doesn't involve people with developmental disabilities, but if you think about it, it includes people with traumatic brain injury. It includes people with dementia, Alzheimer's, all these things, stroke survivors, all of them can benefit from a lot of these different interventions. So I've been doing this since 2014. Thank God I had a great executive director in Rick Sviret, and Tibby Guzman has continued the support for this. And a lot of it is public education, where I'm just trying to go out and tell staff and families about all these things. We're going to send out a link to this file, this PowerPoint presentation, so you don't have to be scribbling down the URL on this, but we have sections of our website that have lots of resources, and you can access them. So one of the big changes, I'd say, really, there was a sea change 10 years later. We're 10 years after the iPad came out. And there's such a change in the whole industry from very expensive, specialized devices into universal design devices like, iPads. They can be used by me, my daughter, anybody. Smart speakers can benefit a lot of people. One of the colleagues we have at an ARC talked about a smart speaker that he used to let somebody into the house because he didn't like staff coming into his house unless he knew what the staff, which person it was. And so they put a Google Calendar, attached it to an Alexa device, and he could say, who's coming today? And if it was somebody he liked, he'd open the door. How cool is that? That is really cool. So now things are lower cost. It's not as cheap as I would like to see it, but still $400 for an iPad is a lot less than $7,000 for a Dynavox machine. So big changes. None of this beats what Ann before mentioned, a hug, compassion. I don't know of any physical thing that will ever replace this, but I'm looking at this as just a tool because COVID-19 is changing our system temporarily, but I think long-term, we have to really, really change a lot of our systems just at a matter of economics and the fact that even though during my days, I used to do self-advocacy for 12 years. In the old days, it was easy to get advocates together because they were in congregate settings. They were in a day-hab program. They were, in a residence. Now we have people living in the community, even in the day-hab settings. A lot of them are without walls programs. And how do you connect them all? That's a fact of our system, and it's a good thing because we created it. We made the system much more individualized, but how do we connect? We're still using the old tools of personal contact. And after this crisis is over, God hoping, I think some of these changes that we're seeing in training and all this and connecting with people are going to stay. It's something that we have to accept as almost a new normal. So I try and educate staff and families about technology. A lot of not just talking about technology, but showing what can be done with it, because that's really my focus. It's great to show you how a toaster works, but really, aren't you just interested in getting a piece of toast? At the end of the day, that's what you want. So if I can use an iPad to connect with my daughter or to remember my next task at a grocery store that I work at, that's what's important, not the technology. We can use technology as a fantastic resource for remote training. Just some of our day-hab folks in the Without Walls program at ARC Westchester were doing Zoom meetings with a lot of the guys that hadn't seen each other for a week or so, and just chatting, just doing an online chat. And I'm putting a caveat here, don't anybody tell HIPAA about this, but I don't know if this is all HIPAA compliant, but I'll worry about that if I'm still alive in 90 days. Right now, I just want to get connections made, all right? If HIPAA wants to sue me, find me first. And a big thing that is a foundation of what I'm doing is I believe in neuroplasticity, that the brain continues to change throughout your lifetime, and that just because you ended school at 21 doesn't mean that you're not continuing to grow. My Jesse continues to this very day learning about things, and we are not time limited in supporting people. They continue to find out new things, and we have to build our system around it. So one thing you'll have to worry about with me, I get passionate about this. I might talk 3 hours, so somebody yell and say, stop talking. Anyway, now to make it happen, I'd love to see this expand beyond ARC Westchester. Lori Dale at Ability has been doing some great things. AHRC New York City, some really great initiatives, but I'd love to see this spread to other organizations. And I think it really starts at the top. You have to have buy-in from the management of the organization that technology and lifelong learning are important to that organization. You have to get the people in the trenches, the direct support professionals, really excited about it. Not that they're going to become AT professionals, but that they know who they can ask about certain things. They should, one person in any organization cannot do it all. We need people on the front line that are willing to say, okay, we have a quiet moment, let's do something with technology. I went into one Dayhab a couple of years ago, and hopefully my boss doesn't hear about this, but it was in a Dayhab and they had the Echo sitting there, this big black cylinder. And I said, Alexa, how's the weather today? And it told me it was sunny and it was a nice day. The staff were shocked. They had the Echo there, but nobody had ever used it. It just sat there and nobody thought to teach the people how to use it. So that's what we have to do. We have to kind of like educate, let the management give us an open door to investigate this. And then the next thing is to teach the people that are actually in the trenches. This assumes that there are some funds for all this, because right now the system doesn't fund a lot of technology, except if it's in the case of communication. But it's something that is a long-term lobbying effort that we all have to make this as a fundable service. We're connecting people now. I mentioned FaceTime. You got Skype, Google Duo. I don't know if anybody has tried this yet, but it's an alternative to FaceTime, because FaceTime only works with 2 Apple devices. Google Duo works with all kinds of devices. You can have an Apple device talking to an Android device. Microsoft Teams, if any of you guys have Office 365, you can open that up to people. We're now in the process at early stages. We're gradually bringing iPads into some of our houses so that they become learning hubs. If you take an iPad, connect it to a smart TV in the house, all of a sudden you have an incredible learning experience, but you need those basic elements. And providing remote supports now is so challenging, but it's something that we're trying to learn about. Yep. Okay, so some of the specific things that we're doing are supported employment staff, because of a very nice funder gave us some money to buy tablets, and they're using it on job sites. Now they're doing it with remote coaching, connecting with people with video conferencing. We're getting upgraded tech into some of the houses, and we're doing a lot of public education. We have a tech supports webpage on our site that has all kinds of things, listings of apps, connections to our webinars. Speaking of webinars, I do maybe in the course of a month, 1 or 2 webinars a month, showing you how you can use tech for practical purposes. And we have now an archive. It must be 40 plus webinars that we have available there. I record them, edit them, and then post it to our website. We just started a learning resources page that is, supposed to help not just our staff and our parents, but everybody in the community, that is sort of like a hub of things that you can do. And if you go onto that learning resource page, you'll see things like places to go around the world using Google Earth, tours of museums, you name it, health advice, how to exercise using very easy exercises, whole bunch of resources. And we were going to do a technology conference with our friends at Mercy College in May, but of course that changed. We're not going to do that now. But I'm hoping in September that the world is in a better place and that we can do a virtual conference at that point, because it'll be 5 years that we have done conferences, and they've always been very helpful, lots of breakout sessions, and just teaching agencies, special ed teachers, OT, PTs about the power of technology. So I'm going to give you some examples, just talking, but let me give you some actual examples of things that I use on a daily basis in communication, social connections, organizing, and finding and keeping your job. So at the core of everything, we want people to really let their families, their staff, anybody that deals with them, actually see them. We don't want to see the agency. We don't want to see, a community experience is not being in a van with 14 other people going through the Dunkin' Donuts drive-through window. That's not community. You're not seeing the person. You're just saying, oh, here comes the van from ARC Westchester. Of course, we don't do those things, but we want people to actually see the individual. So a tool that I use, it comes from the United Kingdom, is Mind of My Own. And guess what, folks? It's free. It's free. And what this does is let you sit down with an individual. I've been trying to pitch this to a lot of care managers in the old days, Medicaid service coordinators, because it makes you have an intense conversation with somebody. It asks the person, well, why are we talking? Are we getting ready for a meeting? Are we trying to solve a problem? And based upon the model that you take, you can go through the whole cycle, and it'll say, where do you want the meeting to be? Do you want it to be in your home, or do you want it at Starbucks? Do you want it at your psychiatrist's office? I don't think so. Who do you want to be at the meeting? Do you want all your therapists to be there, or would you like your girlfriend sitting next to you? All right, so, and then after it goes through all these questions, what do you want to talk about? What's good in your life? What's bad in your life? What do you need help with? And you go through all this interrogation. You press a button after you've typed this all in, and guess what? It produces an agenda, a printed agenda that the individual, the advocate, can take to a meeting and say, this is what I want to talk about today. And how much power is that? That's absolutely fantastic. And folks, this is free. It has some terminology that is unique to the UK, but you can change a lot of their, acronyms. So that's a really great one. My wonderful friends at Schenectady Arc have created tons of apps. And this is just a great example of reaching out to your community, because they had a lady, a very bright lady who was a retired chemistry professor, who came knocking on their door one day and said, how can I help? I taught myself how to code in Apple iOS. And they've developed now, I think it's 5 applications, and they're free. This lady doesn't get paid anything. She does it out of the goodness of her heart. So keep making those connections. You never know who you're gonna, bump into. And just recently, we connected online, and she says, do you need anything, Jordan, at ARC Westchester? And I'm assembling my list. So my life is kind of similar to Mind of My Own, but it's less literacy based in that you can use lots of pictures, lots that you can record your voice. So it'll ask you a question like, do you get into the community enough? And it'll have a smiley face that goes higher or lower depending upon whether you're happy or whether you're sad, and it gives you a sad face. And then you can record your own comments if you don't have any literacy. And these are all things that you can take to a meeting with you. Book Creator, fantastic app that you can create all kinds of stories for yourself. If you're going into a job and you're transition age, what the heck kind of jobs does anybody have at 21? I was working I was putting price tags on clothes when I was 19, at a Mays department store. I remember that so well. But you don't have any kind of resume. So what do? You talk about the good things that you are as a person. You talk about that maybe you volunteer to walk dogs in the neighborhood, maybe you babysit, maybe you volunteer at a nursing home, maybe you do all these things that show you the essential qualities of person that they're honest, they're reliable, they're caring, all these good things. You can use a tool like Book Creator to create a virtual resume. And the really interesting thing about it is that after you create these series of pictures, you can put the text in there and then it can be read to someone else. So you could use it for that purpose of a virtual resume, but just think about how many times, and I hope we get back to this, but taking field trips, like a day program decides to go to a planetarium. You could keep a recording of what happened on that day at the planetarium and make a whole library of your experiences. So Book Creator, fantastic, fantastic app. So what is this all designed to do? If you looked at my Jessica, this is, if we turn the clocks back to like 1980, this is probably what we would have seen on some of her case notes. She's an adult, low functioning, ataxic cerebral palsy, unstable balance, often falling, can't understand how she speaks, limited self-care, and she has a seizure history. Well, now I understand why I drink. No, wait a second, folks, there's more to it than that. This is just all the negatives. It doesn't show the positive aspects of the individual. Here, using something as simple as PowerPoint, this tells you more about the person, right? Jessie loves baths. She loves babies. She likes going out to eat. She enjoys baseball. She loves Curious George. There's a picture in Boston. Curious George came out of the Curious George bookstore, and it was like her meeting Elvis. It was a very exciting date. She likes riding horses and all this. So doesn't this tell you more about an individual than reading case notes? This is who we are trying to support. All those other things are deficits. These are the wonderful things that makes up a human being. Oops, whoops. And she tells you that, you know, I don't have to be pushed around in a chair. I can push myself. I can get around with a walker. How cool is that? Here's another app called 10 Ways, a social skills game. Anybody here, I'm sure, has watched Jeopardy. This is the same kind of thing. When you start this game, it gives you a Jeopardy format of, like, you know, increasing dollar amounts or increasing point amounts. And it asks you social questions. So like it'll say, this person that was just talking to me turned and looked the other way. And then you have to come up with, what does being ignored look like? And it goes through all these things just to give people practice in social skills, understanding feelings, understanding appropriate responses. And I got to say this again, F-R-E-E, free. Incredible, absolutely incredible. Another thing from Schenectady Arc, they have this wonderful program that, one thing is to say that I want to get a job. That's where we start with a lot of people. Oh, that's wonderful that you want to get a job. All right, let's start actually putting this, let's put the rubber to the road and figure out, how do we get that job? And that's what this app does, another free app. And you say the goal is to get the job. All right, how are we going to do that? We want to make some kind of resume, a virtual resume or a regular hard, you know, CV. We want to practice our interview skills. We want to dress nicely. We want to network and see if there's places for us to work at. And so that's all in the planning stage. And then we do it. And after we do it, then we evaluate how it went. Well, I didn't get the job. Probably being 20 minutes late for the interview wasn't a good idea. And so you review it and you start back at the beginning again. The goal still is to get a job. What are the things that I have to correct from that last experience? So this could be used for job. This could be used for anything in your life. I want to get an apartment. I want a girlfriend, whatever. But to put down that planning process into a formal kind of setup. Canplan, University of Victoria, if you go on their site, they have quite a few apps. They're all free. And this takes, Canplan is an app that takes any kind of activity and breaks it down into its component parts. I talk about my daughter ad nauseum, and here we go again. She likes to make her own coffee. And I don't know if any of you have considered that the Keurig machine is assistive technology, but it is. If she was trying to make more coffee out of a coffee pot with hot water and stuff, you know, I think we'd all be nervous. But as long as you give her a Keurig, she can take that pot out, she can fill the water thing, and she can make her own coffee. We had folks, graduate students from Mercy College that use this program to help somebody at one of our houses learn how to do laundry. So, you know, step by step, their first couple of tries, you know, she would put 5 cups of bleach in the laundry, and that didn't go too well. So, you know, this helps you figure out how to do something. And then there's another, this isn't free, but it's 99 cents, which is incredible. Reminders with voice. And during the day, you can do all kinds of reminders that have little alarm clocks set to them, or they can be person's voice. And I first found out about this by this woman I met in Colorado who had a daughter that when she was a little girl, I think about 2 or 3, she was on the slopes of a mountain in Colorado skiing, and somebody crashed into her, and she became a traumatic brain injury survivor. And she's living on her own a couple of blocks away from her mom, but she lives with this app religiously. This is the thing that keeps her on task, because as a part of the action, she had difficulty remembering step-by-step kind of things, when to do things and all that. Again, just a wonderful app. And the Attainment Company, great resource. They have lots of apps that you can sample, but the full versions are a little more expensive, but they're extraordinary. And how many people have, we talked about life plans before, how many people have in their life plan money skills? Well, that's great. And then you have these tiny little pieces of dollar bills that don't look anything like a dollar bill. Like, what? And, you know, this actually makes it real. It has shopping experiences where you have a grocery list and you have to go shopping. The currency looks like what it's supposed to look like. And it's great preparation to actually go out and buy things, not just walk the mall, but actually go into a store and buy something. It's expensive. It's about 45 bucks, but man, it's worth every penny. And then one of the things that I really emphasize is that don't look for technology just for special needs. These are a variety of apps, all coming from the same purpose. It was a work readiness program in Pennsylvania for people that were coming out of, you know, Rust Belt kind of jobs, going back into the workforce, getting themselves prepped. And they're great little apps, all free, but they weren't special ed. If you searched in the Apple Store or the Google Play Store for special ed, you would never find this. You wouldn't find FaceTime either. So you got to use your imagination a little bit. This is extraordinary. And you go through a whole cycle, say like in the get prepared, you have to kind of like say to yourself, well, I'm getting ready for the work week, and it's Sunday afternoon. Do I just chill and watch TV all day? Or do I go to the grocery store, get ready for the week? And all these practical examples of time, getting dressed. Should I wear to the interview shorts and a cutoff shirt? I don't know. I don't think so. So all these things are great tools, but again, you won't find them if you're looking for stuff for people with disabilities. You find them and apply them from other markets. So that's me, very short, very fast, and this will go out to all of you. Please check out our page for the learning resource guide that we're using right now. I'd love to build it up with suggestions from the outside, from other agencies. I heard a couple of things today of people doing remarkable things. I'm going to go and start building it even more. And, this could be a great resource, not just for this COVID-19 time that we're going through, but for the long term. We've got a major change in our system that has to happen, and this could be a great tool for it. Let's see.